today I thought I would review the daisy dress. Hello makers, and welcome to Share Stitchery. I'm Catherine Harris, and this week I thought I would review the daisy dress pattern. Now, if you don't already know, a fellow YouTuber called Rosery Apparel has created a line of patterns as well, and this happens to be one of the newest patterns in her lineup called the daisy dress. Now, she's an Australian pattern designer and YouTuber. If you haven't checked her out, do be sure to go on over and check out her channel. I will link her down below. She has a lot of great sewing makes. Now, I was drawn to this dress because I like the fact that it had a nice front button placket going in, and you've got a nice little subtle V-neck, and it doesn't go down too low, which I really like. Now, the daisy dress comes in sizes 4 through 24, which is a bust measurement of 30 3/4 inches up to 46.5 inches, with a waist measurement of 24.5 inches up to 40 inches, and a hip measurement of 32 inches up to 48 inches. So you have a decent size range in there. Now, she doesn't have cup sizes, but all of the patterns that she has does have a bit more room. So they are not drafted to be very tight to the body, but a little bit more boho inspired and a little bit more looser. So one of the great things about this dress in particular is the fact that it is very comfortable to wear. It is not going to cinch you in at the waist, but it still gives a nice fit and flare silhouette and gives you enough room to move. And if you wanted to cinch it in more, you just need to add a little belt. So there are 3 views to this pattern. Now, all of the views have the same bodice and skirt. What is different are the sleeve options. So view A has a puffed sleeve option, which is elasticized just along the bottom cuff, giving it a nice puffy sleeve. View B is the one that I decided to make, which has that puff sleeve, but rather than elasticating the bottom of the cuff of the sleeve, it actually has 3 rows of shearing up about 1.5 to 2 inches from the bottom hem of that sleeve, giving it a nice little ruffle detail along the edge of that sleeve. And the last view is a sleeveless option, which is perfect for summer. That is basically this bodice, but without the sleeves. Now, you could adjust this dress and make it a maxi length or a shorter knee length version, but I am really liking this midi length. I find it to be the perfect length for spring and summer, and I can also, depending on how I pair it with different shoes and cardigans, I can wear it throughout the winter months as well. Now, I decided to make my daisy dress out of this beautiful gingham fabric here. I actually got mine from Minerva, and I will link it down below so you can check out all the wonderful colors of this gingham. I was really drawn to this rusty brown color. It has a nice warmth to it, and it really fit into the color palette that I am going for this spring and summer. Now, Rosery Apparel has a tutorial on how to stitch this up step by step, but I thought I would run through really quickly what I did to create this dress. So, making my daisy dress. So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly here. I am going to start with the bodice darts here, and I always like to tie the ends because they give a much more crisp dart, and it is much more flattering than if you backstitch. And then I'm just going to press the darts, and I'm pressing them down and towards the side seam of the bodice. We're just going to repeat that to the other side. Next, we are going to stitch the shoulder seams in place here. So this is an unlined dress. It has facings, so it is pretty quick in here, but you want to also make sure that you finish those seams. So I have finished them with my overlocker, but you could use French seams or you could zigzag the edges. And then I am just pressing this towards the back of the bodice. And then I am placing it right sides together, and I'm going to pin and stitch those side seams. So I am just matching up either side. Now this dress comes together in a snap. It is nice and quick to make, which is a definite plus in my end. And then I'm going to stitch that so you can see it's all stitched in here. And then we are going on to the skirt and the pockets. So with right sides together, I am placing my pocket bag facing down. Obviously, we don't want upside down pockets. And I am just going to stitch that along the side seam on all of the skirt pieces on both sides. Next, I am going to place the skirt with the pockets right sides together and just stitch the side seam going around the perimeter of the pocket. So when you get to the pocket, I like to go up and then I just pivot and go right in and around that pocket, which leaves a nice inseam pocket that you can't even see. Next, grab the bodice piece, open it up, and with the 2 rows of gathering stitches, gather in your skirt. So make sure you pull on those bobbin threads and it'll be nice and easy to gather that up. I like to find my center and pin that in place and then place the gathering stitches on either side and just gather towards that center. So I am just slowly gathering that up on either side and then pinning it in place so that I can stitch down that dress. So you can see the nice soft gathers along the front of our button-up dress. Once that's done, we can look at our facing. So I interfaced the pieces of our facing, and then with right sides together, we're going to stitch all of those pieces together, and it should look a little something like that. Add in a nice fun tag and overlock or finish the edges of the facing. You could also fold them in. And I like to first match that up and then stitch it on. So you can see that it is fully stitched right here. Don't forget to clip any curves. That being said, a step that is not in the instructions that I decided to do was actually go in and understitch this because it allows that facing to sit a lot nicer. So I'm just making sure that I am clipping everything so that the curves lie nice and flat. And then the next aspect is you're just going to fold it over and then stitch the bottom. But before that, let's understitch it. So I've pressed this so that the seam is going towards the facing, and then I am just stitching right along the facing edge, just attaching that side seam. So this really helps it to lie nicely. So you can see I've stitched that right there. And then you can top stitch that facing in place. And I have finished the hem just like so. Our dress is really coming along. Next is the shearing, which is one of my favorite parts. In order to wind the elastic thread, you need to do that by hand, and you need to pay careful attention to the tension that you have on your bobbin. You don't want it too tight and you don't want it too loose. So it's something that you just need to kind of feel and get the hang out of. And once that is done, we can start the rows of shearing. Do a couple test mock-ups. I find that a setting of number 5 or the longest stitch length tends to work the best and produce the most gathers. So I've stitched my sleeve together, and I have done this a little bit differently. I actually did the shearing prior to sewing the side seams because it is more secure when you stitch that seam up the side of that side seam. Then I am just insetting the sleeve into the bodice of the dress and getting that all stitched in place. Make sure you put the gathering stitches along the top, and our dress is pretty much all complete here. Now that was just a quick run through on how I created my daisy dress, and it really came together quite quickly. Now, my favorite part on this dress has to be the sleeves and this shearing detail within the sleeves. It has got me on a kick where I want to put shearing in absolutely everything, so I'm sure you will see a ton of other projects where I have decided to add some shearing. I've got some plans in the works here. Now, if you're new to us here, do be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos and sewing tutorials on all things sewing and crafting. Until next time, makers, let's get our sewspiration on.